so often someone says, oh, that face looks sort of dingy, I'm going to replace it. Please don't. Also, it has Roman numerals as opposed to Anglo numbers, I guess, which it is makes it a little bit earlier. In the front is a painting on glass that is fake. It appears to have a large house, a river in front of it, and the rest is indiscernible. It was very common to put a picture in the front. And yes, this would have been of that era. Clock value. I always tell people, if you're going to buy something, you need to buy a wonderful candlestick and consider buying a wonderful clock and a wonderful doll. I mean, an upscale doll. Clocks hold their value extremely, extremely well, where other things crash and become useless and nobody's interested in them. If you have a quality clock, you have something of merit. It is an excellent investment. And every home should have one somewhere, even if it's a little cottage clock or a bigger one, doesn't make any difference. And there are people about who are very good at repairing them nowadays. You should take the chance and buy one. If you see it in a shop and they say, oh, it doesn't work, don't worry. You can get it to work. There's some excellent clock repair people about it. But value here, low would be 150, and it could be as high as 450 because of its age, and the provenance is so clear on the back of it. But there's bigger clocks, there's stronger clocks, there's different shapes, but this is a very classical shape and is quite elegant, and the gold on the door is in superior condition. Usually that's flakes off, so this has had very, very good care. I hope you travel with it well. If possible, remove that pendulum when you're traveling with it and so forth. But it's a very, very nice piece. Yes?
How much did you say that's worth?
I would say around $450 top, $450.
I have one on my mantle.
Oh, very good. They come in sizes. Now, as they get
Mine is
big,
that size.
okay, they get bigger and taller. I actually like the cottage and small ones for where we live now. If you get one too big, it's sometimes just a big square frame, where this size is excellent, and it can move from room to room. It's meant as a mantle clock. It's not a tablecloth. So, and you would have not found it particularly in a bedroom unless it was a shelving. It might have been on a shelf, but it's usually described as a mantle cloth. Who has the large? This is a category of which I am out. It is a military item. Can you tell us about it?
It has a somewhat local connection.
All right.
There was a gentleman that lived at the bottom of 303 right where Furnace Run Creek goes.
Okay.
Lived up on the right-hand side of the hill there. His name was Etzel. And he, I guess he died and they auctioned off his stuff. And he was into, he supplied, he was a machinist. He also supplied, I think it's called the Jesters or Jokers, which is like an offshoot maybe of the Masons or something like that. You ever hear of it, the Jesters or Jokers? Anyways, he was a supplier of the stuff. And he also had military stuff. And I didn't buy any other stuff. Van bought a lot of military stuff, but they carried these in out of the backyard. They were caked in mud, laid them down on the ground, and I bid on them. I bid against Jim Fry. I paid $10 for two. That one and a 150 millimeter one, which I have in my garage, which is enormous. But that one is, I cleaned it up, and that one is stamped something about the armistice on it, the signing of the armistice. I've researched them the best I can. I'm not into the military either, but I know they're European in nature. That one's about 60 millimeter, I think, and it's not live. It's the fuse and stuff's all taken off.
You never know.
But just a piece.
Well, military items are very popular collector items for men, primarily, and there are some very strong military shows where you can take these items and have it more definitively appraised in value. But I will have to pass on it in terms.
I understand. I just I bring it down, and
yeah,
I don't want to leave next to that clock any longer than it has to. I did have it extra, so don't worry.
Very good. Next item is a large lithograph. Whose does this belong to? Yes, what do you know about it?
Not much, I bought it at Antiques Shop about 35 years.
Okay, all right. This is a rather large print and was probably not meant for the home. This is a commercial piece and would have been installed in a German restaurant or a Slavic restaurant where they wanted to create a feeling of old world. And you see here a watermill, here I'm over at the table, talking upside down, looking at it. This is primarily the architecture and the scenic behind. My guess is they were attempting to emulate something European. This is a stone mill. Didn't you say stone mill? You were talking east of Harrisburg, because that's where most of the stone houses are, and down into southern Ohio we have stone houses. But the terrain, we don't have mountains like that down there, they're quite this way, and we don't have birch trees, the whole thing. When you begin to look at it, you say, this is a European scene. It's very well colored, but it is a lithograph, and was meant for display in a commercial restaurant. The back is covered with paper, so one doesn't have any information there. But when you see this size, this is almost what we call exhibition size. It's normally comes from a restaurant. Value, again, this is in the category of the illustrator art. It has that same essential value. Here, this would be close to $200 for value. And it's very pleasing. You're very lucky it has not faded. So often the greens turn brown, the whites, what would have been vivid white, turn a little creamy, of which this is starting. The whites are turning a little cream from just the age and patina. But it is nice. Whose piece is this? Okay. This is a jardiniere, most likely, even though it is unmarked, which puzzles me. Because I had been told there's a piece of Roseville. Roseville marks their items. This might have been a piece of Weller. The pattern books are there. If it is not Roseville, it would have had a paper label. The color of the clay, and I'm going to try to spin this so you can see. The color of the clay is typical Ohio art pottery. This is not New Jersey. This is not Beaver Valley, Pennsylvania. This is not Rochester clay. This is Ohio to its earlobes. It is that creamy yellow. And this is one of the very familiar shapes. And that's why I'm sort of hedging a little bit here that it might be a piece of Weller.
Well, there's writing on the bottom there.
Is there writing? I didn't see any.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wait. Oh, good. All right, good. All right, nope. All right. It does have an identification. Sorry, I did not see that. Yes. All right. This is, it has initials. RPP Company. This is not the early Roseville. What happened is, when Roseville burned in the 40s, they had the molds and they sold them and they were reissued under Roseville Pottery Company. Rooseville's mark is a great big Roseville in a script and a number. And I even brought with me, I brought my Roseville number book, because someone said there's a piece of Roseville, and I said, oh, well, I'll bring the number book, because I can match the pot to the number, and I will tell you definitively what its value is. But this isn't it. This is, and the company's still in business. If you go down to Zanesville along 70, 40, runs across the southern part of the state, they're still in business. And they're making jardiniers of this sort. And they were meant always, this was something that was used in the vestibule of the home, and would have been for a large plant. I usually suggest that you put something inside, rather than putting dirt in here. And someone obviously has, because they've tried to protect the interior. Value here. These big pieces often do not have the value that a small cabinet piece does, just because our lifestyles have changed. It gets back to that wanted item thing. Who wants a piece this big? Most people want something pretty for a shelf. So it does impact the value. The good news is they usually found these bigger pieces were harder to make because they would crack in the firing, so that there's fewer of them sometimes. So that does sustain the value because it's supply and demand, there's fewer of them. But generally the value here, I would be putting on this about $165. And that would hold it well enough. It has some nice, it was not made yesterday. When I said they're still in business, it was not made yesterday. Yeah, no, it was not made yesterday. And it's sort of a revival of a era gone by, sadly. But very, very nice, very good condition, very good condition. We have a painting. All right, just tip over. We have a watercolor painting, and this sign picks. My first reaction when I saw it is, this is not a professional, academically trained watercolor, but this is a highly proficient home hobbyist of the era. And this is the era of painted china. It was a very ladylike thing that if you could play the piano and you were good with art stitchery, you could sew, and if you could paint, and young ladies were sent out for painting art classes, it was always florals. And that's why, how many teacups do we have with flowers on them? Yes, that's a reason. That was the porcelain that they were training the young ladies, and it was a sign that you were refined. And this would have been a middle class lifestyle, that was a value, and that ladies were sent for that training. This is an extension of that in a very nice watercolor, roses. Actually very well done. The draftsmanship is very good. It would be fun to try and find out who painted it. Maybe you know who painted it.
I
What
don't.
do you know about the piece?
I tried looking it up online. I couldn't
Yeah,
find C.
that's the
Hicks
sad part.
anywhere.
No, so probably
Okay.
it is a very skilled home artist who's had some
Okay.
training, but has not gone to Parsons School of Design, for example, or Rhode Island School of Design for Art, or the Art Institute of Cleveland. It appears to be in the original frame and the original mat. A word about that. If possible, it is better to keep the artwork in the original frame. If the frame is beyond, or you do not like it, then it's a choice that you go and have it reframed and you freshen up the mat, because a piece here is slipped apart and has come down from one of the corners, and you get a frame. Not the size of the frame is appropriate for this kind of artwork. It should be a narrow gold. Do not frame your watercolors with a metal frame, you know, those artsy metal things that you can buy at Joann's. Don't do that. You want a frame that is this proportion width-wise, and you can have it reframed if you want to update it slightly, but generally they have more value if they're left in their original frame. It's a personal call. Value. Watercolors are not as valuable as an oil painting, but they do have a strong price. This would be about $200
Oh, nice.
at a show, and would be a nice piece for someone to have. Probably this was in a dining room or bedroom, and there is a good understanding of the foliage. This background is an easy way for an amateur to handle the background. So Sarge was trying very hard.
Would it be appropriate to clean the painting, to do anything with the
Yes.
backing, because the backing looks like it's kind of peeling, or should I just
Yes,
leave it?
the backing, well, let's take a look at the backing, because this is what I do all the time.
Yeah.
All right, yes, this is a
We
rather
haven't touched it,
clumsy
so-
framing.
Yeah.
And there's that remote possibility that it might not be the original frame, but it is a period frame. If I owned this, you're right, I would be taking off the masking tape. I'm not a big
Yeah,
masking tape,
right.
duct tape kind of person.
Yeah.
For good material. I would actually, if I owned it,
Mhm.
I would be reframing totally. As much as I'm just, sounds
Yeah.
like a contradiction when I said, the vintage frame, the original frame is valuable. Yes, it is in one setting. But if I'm gonna hang it in my home, the color palette of my home now is very light.
Uh-huh.
So that I might
So
save
maybe,
the
should I redo the mat also?
Yep.
Or get it
Yep.
cleaned? Could you
Yep.
clean a watercolor?
Yeah, what they're gonna do is take the glass off. Your framer will take the glass
Uh-huh,
off and take it to a professional. I would try
Right.
it yourself.
Peninsula Art
And
Gallery.
snap it out.
thank you.
You may find on the back that there's writing on it. Sometimes happens on the back of
I
the
know,
water.
I've never taken it off.
You know. So it's a haul.
Okay.
But
Okay.
for resale, if I were buying this in the market, let's say I found this in the market in this condition, I would be looking at the artwork, and for resale, I would be changing.
Because his mother picked it up years ago at a flea market or garage sale or somewhere. He's not sure.
Yeah, good.
Cool.
It's very
Yes,
Victorian.
what hit
Very
is
nice. It's actually very nice.
HICKFC.
C.
C.
Sorry,
Because there's an Audrey Hicks that used to show at Bath Church when they had their art shows.
Are these the indenture papers?
I'm sorry?
The indenture
interesting.
papers?
Yes.
I thought so.
Okay,
Talk
thanks.
to me about them. What do you know about them?
Let me take it out of there.
Yes, I didn't want to take it out just because of the age.
Sure.
Excuse me, I'm going to move this, I'm not even sure what it is, but payment, pass
Oh,
over that
all
on
right,
that side,
all right.
it's not mine, I don't know whose it is.
All right, thank you.
This is a contract of indenture,
Oh, my.
or indebtedness. Most people that came to this country in like the 16 and 1700s were poor people. They didn't have money to pay for their passage. So they would contact a ship's captain, and they would enter into this indebtedness. And he then would provide them with the transport to this country. And then when he got here, he would sell this to a wealthy colonialist, and then the person would work for that new owner for several years, 5, 7 years, whatever, and then they would be free to go on with their lives. And this is written on vellum, which is leather, and let me see. Got a little blue stamp here. This is a tax stamp, and there's a red wax seal on the bottom to attest to the fact that this little A here, that was, this is a contract for Agnes Gomer, and this is her mark, that little A.
Interesting.
And it's, the other interesting thing about this is, you see the top of it is kind of scalloped,
Yeah.
and the reason for that is this is only half of the original document. There was another indenture which was printed above this one, and it was a duplicate, an exact duplicate. And that little red stamp attests to the fact that the two were identical. And then they would cut the top in a random fashion and save one half in a vault somewhere, and then this would be the working contract, such that in the future, if there was any question as to whether or not this was the original language, they could pull the one out of the vault, match up the scallop, and it's
Wow.
like making it sort of a carbon copy.
Wow.
But,
Really neat.
Neat. Neat.
Have you ever considered having it framed open? Having it mounted?
I was thinking about it.
I would definitely do that. That would be a very strong recommendation, where they would mount that that could be reversed,